Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news. Today, we will give you an honest and detailed analysis of where both sides, Tigray Defense Force and Ethiopian National Defense Force, actually stand. First of all, about the information war. Both sides are watching each other, claiming victories and flooding the information space. What is real and what is narrative management? Secondly, about Tigray Defense Force's weapons capability in detail. 4 drone strikes, 3 tanks destroyed, 5 vehicles eliminated, Iranian Farak rockets, Zu-23 systems. What this tells us about Tigray Defense Force's real combat capability, not just what it has, but how it uses what it has. After that, about Ethiopian National Defense Force's real strength, Turkish drones, foreign partners, diplomatic support, Abiy Ahmed's political options, why the Ethiopian government cannot be underestimated. And in last, about the Sendo alliance as a military challenge. If this conflict reaches full scale, what does the real test of both sides look like? Let us start with something that is easy to lose sight of in a fast-moving conflict. The information environment itself. Both the Tigray People Liberation Front political administration and the Ethiopian federal government are actively monitoring each other's military activities, not just physically through surveillance, intelligence, and drone observation, but digitally. Social media posts, circulated footage, claims made by affiliated accounts, all of it is being tracked by both sides. And both sides are using that information space as a weapon. Drone footage showing a military buildup, videos of captured soldiers, celebration clips from after a battle, statements by generals and ambassadors. All of it is being released deliberately at specific moments to shape the narrative, to make the other side look weaker, to reassure their own fighters, and to influence how international observers understand the conflict. We share footage from Tigray Defense Force sources. We have shared footage from Fano sources. We have been transparent about what we are verifying and what we are not. That transparency matters because in this information environment, a video shared without context can be from 3 years ago or from yesterday. And the difference is everything. Former Ethiopian National Defense Force General Bacha Debele, now serving as Ethiopia's ambassador to Kenya, has made statements that belong in this category of information war as much as military reality. He said that if a new conflict begins, the regional map could change and that Eritrea could become part of the conflict. He described this in aggressive terms. Let us be precise about what this statement does. It does 2 things simultaneously. First, it signals to the Eritrean government that any Eritrean involvement would have consequences. It is a deterrent message dressed in aggressive language. Second, it signals to the Ethiopian domestic audience that the government is not afraid, that it is confident, and will fight back with all available resources. Whether Eritrea joins or stays out of any renewed conflict will be determined by decisions in Asmara, not by the ambassador's words in Nairobi. But the statement itself is part of the information battle being fought alongside the physical one. Now to the specifics of Tigray Defense Force's demonstrated capability. Because the Shurena engagement has given us more than claims, it has given us results. 4 drone strikes, 3 Ethiopian National Defense Force tanks destroyed, 5 military vehicles eliminated. Let us unpack what these numbers reveal because the math here tells an important story. 4 strikes, 3 tanks, 5 vehicles. That is a hit rate and a damage rate that most drone programs in the world would consider a meaningful performance. It is not perfect, but it is far from random. It suggests that whoever is operating Tigray Defense Forces drone systems is doing so with a level of training, targeting knowledge, and operational judgment that was not present in Tigray Defense Forces arsenal during the 2020-2022 war. In that conflict, Tigray Defense Force had no meaningful drone capability. It faced Bayraktar TB2 drones operated by the Ethiopian National Defense Force with support from external advisors drones that struck Tigray Defense Force convoys, supply lines, and concentrations of fighters with devastating effect. Tigray Defense Force could not respond in kind. It could only try to survive the strikes and continue operating. At Amhara Tigray Defense Force launched the strikes, 4 of them, against armored vehicles, and 3 tanks were destroyed. Destroying a tank from a drone is not simple. A tank is armored, mobile, and typically defended. It requires a weapon with enough explosive effect and precision to penetrate or disable armor plating or to strike the more vulnerable top surface. The fact that 3 Ethiopian National Defense Force tanks were reportedly destroyed in 4 strikes means Tigray Defense Force is not just operating drones, it is operating them effectively, with the right munitions, against the right targets. Add to this the Iranian Farak 80 mass memory rockets were reported weapons designed for aircraft but being adapted for ground launch, capable of striking armored positions at ranges beyond what standard RPGs can achieve. Add the Zu-23-2 type anti-aircraft systems that have been observed designed to engage low-flying drones and aircraft, and you have a weapons picture that is meaningfully more capable and more complex than anything Tigray Defense Force demonstrated in 2020. Tigray Defense Force's drone capability is not just about having the aircraft. It is about the operators who can target effectively, about the intelligence to identify and locate armored vehicles, about the coordination between drone operators and ground commanders. 4 strikes, 8 results. This is an integrated capability, not a one-off lucky shot. And as Tigray Defense Force sources have signaled, this is not everything they have. More systems have not yet been revealed. Now, and this is important, let us be equally honest about the Ethiopian National Defense Forces position, because dismissing the Ethiopian Federal Military's capabilities would be as inaccurate as dismissing Tigray Defense Forces. The Ethiopian National Defense Force is not a weak force. It is a force with real strengths, and those strengths matter. We covered the 2020-2022 Tigray War in detail across many updates. In that conflict, the Ethiopian National Defense Force deployed Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drones alongside Chinese-made Wing-Lung drones. These are not improvised systems. They are purpose-built military drones with sophisticated targeting systems, significant loiter time, and proven effectiveness in multiple conflict zones globally. The Bayraktar TB2, in particular, gained international recognition for its performance in conflicts in Libya, Azerbaijan, and Ukraine before it was deployed in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian National Defense Force still has access to drone systems of this category. It has the operational experience from the 2020-2022 war, and it has built additional drone operation infrastructure as the positions near Lalibela Airport and in Shifra in Afar confirm. Beyond drones, the Ethiopian National Defense Force has a significant numerical advantage in trained personnel, a more extensive logistical network across Ethiopia, and federal resources that Tigray Defense Force cannot match in scale. But the most significant advantage the Ethiopian government has is not military. It is diplomatic. Abiy Ahmed has worked systematically to build Ethiopia's international relationships particularly with Western governments and international investors. Ethiopia opened its economy to foreign investment in ways the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, Amhara Tigray People Liberation Front, had consistently refused to do. US companies, European companies, and multinational corporations now have active interests in Ethiopia's stability. Those economic ties create political incentives for Western governments to maintain engagement with Addis Ababa rather than isolating it. This means the Tigray People Liberation Front Political Administrations International lobbying its effort to build pressure on the Ethiopian government through international channels has become less effective than it was even 5 years ago. Western capitals are more reluctant to openly confront or sanction an Ethiopian government that is economically integrated with their companies and investors. Abiy Ahmed understands this. He has multiple options: military, diplomatic, economic, and any analysis of this conflict that treats him as simply a military actor with drones and troops is missing the full picture. The Semdo Alliance Tigray Defense Force, Eritrea, the Fano resistance is a serious military challenge. But it is not the only dimension of this conflict, and Prime Minister Abiy's diplomatic options are real, even as his military faces real challenges on the ground. So if this conflict escalates to full-scale war, what does the actual test of both sides look like? Here is the honest analysis. Tigray Defense Forces' strengths in the coming conflict compared to 2020, drone capability that is now offensive, not just theoretical. Air defense systems, Zu-23-2 type guns that contest Ethiopian National Defense Forces air superiority. Advanced weapons including Iranian systems not previously observed in this conflict. The Semdo Alliance meaning potential. Eritrean support in a conflict where Eritrea was the decisive factor against Tigray Defense Force in 2020. Reorganized army structure, multiple armies deployed to the rear front in coordinated positions. Leadership that has gone underground to protect command continuity against. Ethiopian National Defense Force strikes Tigray Defense Force's continued limitations. Logistical depth sustaining a prolonged offensive remains a challenge. Economic-based Tigray's economy is still severely affected by the siege. International support Western governments are hesitant to openly back Tigray Defense Force against an internationally engaged Ethiopia. Ethiopian National Defense Forces strengths, superior numbers and resources, advanced drone capability with operational experience. Control of airspace contested now, but still predominantly Ethiopian National Defense Forces. International diplomatic standing federal logistics infrastructure. Ethiopian National Defense Forces' real weaknesses, which this conflict has revealed. Morale soldiers surrendering in large numbers. Recruits walking away from training camps before completing basic training. A military already fighting on 3 simultaneous fronts: Tigray, Amhara, Oromia. The assumption that Tigray Defense Forces capabilities were static, a dangerous miscalculation if the Shirena engagement is representative. The Semdo Alliance Tigray Defense Force, combined with Fano in Amhara and potentially Eritrea on the northern front, represents exactly the multi-front challenge that Ethiopian National Defense Force planning has consistently tried to prevent. If all 3 of those forces are simultaneously active and coordinated, the Ethiopian National Defense Force faces something categorically different from any of those conflicts individually. Both sides have real capabilities. Both sides have real weaknesses. The side that manages its weaknesses more effectively in the first weeks of a full-scale engagement will establish the momentum that in this kind of conflict is very hard to reverse. In 2020, the Ethiopian National Defense Force established early momentum. By 2021, Tigray Defense Force had reversed it. In 2026, with the capabilities and alliances now in place, the early momentum may be far harder for either side to establish cleanly. Let us bring tonight's analysis together. The information war is being fought by both sides simultaneously. Footage, claims, and statements are all being deployed as weapons alongside the physical ones. Our job is to tell you what is verified, what is claimed, and what the context is. Tigray Defense Forces drone capability demonstrated at Shorena with 4 strikes, 3 tanks, 5 vehicles shows a force that is not just equipped but trained and coordinated. Iranian Farak rockets and Zeus 23-2 systems add dimensions to that capability that did not exist in 2020. Ethiopian National Defense Forces' strength in numbers, drones, logistics, and above all, in international diplomatic positioning cannot be dismissed. Abiy Ahmed has political and diplomatic options that Tigray Defense Force cannot easily counter. And Tigray Defense Force's international lobbying has less purchase now than it once did. If full-scale war comes, the Semdo alliance is a serious military challenge for the Ethiopian National Defense Force. But the Ethiopian National Defense Force's response will not be purely military. It will combine military operations with diplomatic pressure, economic leverage, and information management. The side that wins the next phase of this conflict may not be the side with the best weapons. It may be the side that can sustain the fight militarily, economically, and politically for longer. That is the real analysis. Both sides have what they need to fight. The question is who can sustain the consequences of fighting. We will keep watching and reporting. Like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update.